What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be using MetaGen to cover what it thinks with the default settings the close range meta is. If you don't know what MetaGen is, it's an AI tool that is now released on TGD that basically will search for the best loadouts for how you like to play. So you can customize it with different weightings for different stats, things like that, different settings for how you like to play specifically. So the whole idea was to help you find your meta rather than finding what someone else on YouTube or Twitter or something tells you is the meta. It helps you find what your specific meta is because different people like different types of weapons. So this, in combination with the true TTK simulation tool, really try to do that and help you find your specific meta. But as always, if you like the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, drop a comment on the video, but let's jump into it and we will look at what MetaGen thinks is the close range meta. All right, starting down here at the bottom, we have the PDSW 528 in 8th place. Then the Striker 9, these are both not great. Basically, you want to look for numbers that are over like 9.5. Anything over 9.5 is going to be really like a very meta weapon. Anything over about 9 is going to be very competitive, but maybe not quite as good. MetaGen's not perfect. I'm never trying to claim that it's perfect. It's not like some all-knowing, feature that can really just be perfect for you. But the idea is to help get you really close to what the best meta would be, basically immediately. As soon as I update the data between patches, when they release changes, you can just come back and use your saved weightings in MetaGen, press the run button, and you'll basically instantly know very close to what the true meta is. That was the whole point of the feature. And then in combination with the true TTK simulator, which is for long range, it's not available for close range yet. You really can find your meta quickly. But back to this, we got Striker 9, then Vel 46. So we're starting to get into the actual silver gold weapons here. So Vel 46 is pretty good as well. We got ISO 9mm in the gold position. The regular Striker in the is this platinum? Yeah, platinum. And then WSP 9 is 9.7, so you can see a huge jump there from 8.95 score up to 9.7. This is out of 10. So between the Striker and the WSP 9, there's a big gap. The WSP 9 is just much better than the Striker. It's in that third place position. And then surprisingly, we got the Core 45 with the XRK conversion kit attached. So we'll talk about that more. I'll show you that in game a little bit. This is one where it's sort of a burst weapon, so it fires when you press the trigger down and then when you let the trigger off. So if you can click really fast and you're pretty good at controlling that, this gun's going to be crazy. It has the fastest time to kill by a significant amount of all of these weapons if you can get close to its maximum fire rate. So keep that in mind. It's hard to use. I'm not trying to say this is an easy to use weapon. It's a very hard to use weapon, which is why it's actually not in first. WSP Swarm actually comes out in first because it has a very good time to kill, good movement, has that really high fire rate, so it's really forgiving for when you miss shots. So it's going to be much easier to use than the Core 45. WSP 9 is in third place, like I said, with that 9.7 out of 10. It has a much slower fire rate, so it's much less forgiving if you miss shots compared to the Swarm, which is why the Swarm still comes out on top, even though WSP 9 has a lot of things going for it. But Core 45 is one of those guns where if you learn how to master it, it's going to pretty much destroy everything. We'll look at it on the TTK chart here in a second. So I'm just going to add all these to the comparison. You can just click the plus on MetaGen, add it to your comparison after the MetaGen has been run. So I got to remove some weapons, but I'll get these added and we'll talk about them. All right, so let's look at the TTK chart here. We've got basically the top 6 weapons: WSP Swarm, Core 45, WSP 9, Striker, ISO 9mm, and Vel 46. Vel 46, this is just chest TTK at 300 health for now. Vel 46 in white, you can see, is pretty much higher than the rest of these everywhere. It just has a lot of other good stats. So MetaGen doesn't just look at TTK. It looks at literally every stat that we have and weights them appropriately and scales them appropriately and then tries to give you a mathematical answer to what the meta is. So yeah, Vel 46 with TTK is a little slow, but it does have a lot of other good stats. The Striker also is pretty slow on chest. You can see the green line here. It is basically the second slowest behind the Vel, or a little bit faster than the Vel, but still not great. It has much better TTK out at longer ranges than the Vel, but that's not usually that important. In some cases it is. Anything, I would say, past like 25 meters is mostly irrelevant for an SMG, but I think a lot of people forget that 10 to 25 is really important. WSP 9 is the blue line here, so it's a little slower than some of the other options. It basically ties the Striker in chest TTK in that first range, but it has a little bit better recoil in my opinion, so you can kind of hit more shots out at longer ranges. And it does have a little extra damage range, so it drops off at 17.3 versus about 13.3 for the Striker. And then we have the Core 45, which is the one I was talking about, the orange here. So this is Core 45 chest shot with the conversion kit that it has, which makes it a weird burst gun, like I said. It's not really a burst gun though, because it fires when you click and when you unclick, or when you pull the trigger and untrigger. So it's really weird, and it has a lot of vertical recoil, so it's kind of hard to use. But the TTK is crazy for chest, but it is one of those profiles where if you miss the chest at all, you're going to basically reduce your time to kill. It only takes a couple shots, and we can look at this on the actual SDK tool if you guys want to see that. So I'll switch over to the 445. You can see it's got the attachments from MetaGen. Scroll down here, you can look at the damage profile first. You can see that it does not have that new forgiving damage profile where arms and stomach are the same as chest. So it does have the old damage profile. And then if we look at the shots to kill tool, so this basically shows you off of chest shots how many shots it takes to change the TTK. So you can see with 5 stomach shots, the TTK gets worse. If you hit 4 chest shots and then 5 stomach shots, the TTK gets worse. And for leg shots, it only takes 3. So 6 chest and 3 leg. Usually you're going to get some stomach in between the chest and leg, so it would be more like 4. Like if you average these two, basically 4 shots missed on the chest is going to increase that time to kill as well. So it's really not super forgiving in a lot of cases, but it just has a crazy time to kill when you actually hit those chest shots. So let's go back to the chart here. Then we have the WSP Swarm in red. You can see that this has a really good range. So something you'll notice between all the different weapons is Modern Warfare 3 SMGs have much better damage at range than the Modern Warfare 2 SMGs in general. So it's hard for the Modern Warfare 2 SMGs to compete, even if they are better in that first damage range, which is super important and probably the most important range. They just are going to be extremely unforgiving anywhere past that first damage drop off, and you can see this on this chart. So the two Modern Warfare 2 guns that are on this list, the ISO and the Vel, are the yellow and the white. And you can see that out at range, anywhere past literally the first drop-off, they are just dramatically worse than the rest of the guns on this chart, which are all Modern Warfare 3 guns. So something to keep in mind, the ISO 9mm and the WSP Swarm red and yellow on this chart. The ISO has a phenomenal chest TTK out to 11.3 meters, so it's actually about the same as the WSP Swarm's first drop-off, which only goes to 6.6 meters, but it has an extra 5 meters of range. But then past that, everywhere the Swarm is dramatically better. So basically from 6.6 up to 11, the ISO is going to win the vast majority of fights. But then from 11 out to infinity, the WSP Swarm is going to be much better. So let's switch this over to combination. You can see the only real change that happens here is that Core 45 gets worse in the first range, that orange line down at the bottom. So if we go back to chest, you can see if you hit chest shots and you can fire near the max fire rate, by far the best SMG. There's no contest there. It kills people so fast, has crazy range, crazy movement, everything like that. It's just hard to use because it has lots of vertical recoil and that weird burst profile. So if I change the combination though, you get a more realistic TTK. That's the whole point of that. And you can see that it's much closer to basically just matching the ISO 9mm at 600 milliseconds and the WSP Swarm at 600 milliseconds. So very competitive. It's just hard to use. So if you want to try to master something and just be able to like destroy people, that's the gun to try to learn how to use. I also want to mention open bolt delay. So if you guys don't know what this is, open bolt delay is a delay from when you press the trigger or click the mouse to when the weapon actually fires. It's something to do with the actual design of the weapon in real life. They try to like kind of make it realistic in that way. So the WSP9 actually has this. So if you turn off open bolt delay on this chart, you will see that the blue line, the WSP9, shifts down a bunch. So that is basically the open bolt delay being removed from the time to kill or not. In cases where it's really important, where you both see each other at the same time, you both pull the trigger at the same time, open bolt delay should be included. But in cases where they don't know you're there and you fire, you start shooting at them, they don't know you're there, then that's when open bolt delay wouldn't really matter. So in some cases it doesn't matter. But I would say in the situations where you have a chance of dying when you actually are both shooting at each other and you both are trying to win the fight, then open bolt delay really does matter and should be included. But you can see that when you turn it off, the actual time to kill of the bullets themselves, not including open bolt delay, is phenomenal for the WSP9. So it will feel like it melts people when they don't see you, but it is going to feel a little worse in situations where, you know, you are both aware of the other person and both shoot the other person at the same time. So what would I be using if I was trying to play Warzone 3 right now, which I'm not really doing since I'm kind of home for the holidays? I would be trying to master the Core 45 personally. I think it's pretty disgusting, especially mouse and key. I feel like you can click a little faster than controller, but the downside of mouse and key is that when you're clicking the mouse, it can sometimes screw with your aim more than pressing a trigger on a controller. So if you have like a mouse switch controller, some controllers, more expensive ones, have actual mouse switches for the triggers. That might be something you want to try. Or if you're just someone who can pull the trigger very quickly, it's another weapon to definitely try. I would probably be bouncing between Core 45, WSP Swarm, WSP 9. Striker's okay. It's not bad. It's just the TTK is just not competitive in that first range, so it's kind of hard to win those fights against, the Swarm, Core 45, and WSP 9. The WSP 9 is just unforgiving because it has that slower fire rate compared to the Swarm, which is why MetaGen thinks the Swarm is better, despite the WSP 9 being excellent at what it does. I just think the Swarm is going to be more forgiving for most people. And then Core 45, like I've said a dozen times in this video, is the best. It's just hard to use. So it's hard to master, hard to use. But I like that. I like when we have a weapon that is clearly better than everything else, but it's hard to use, because that means that people that put in the time, learn how to use it, can have an advantage. And I think that's rewarding. I think people like that. I think that's a fun mechanic. That's how I think everything should be balanced in this game. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. All right, everyone, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I will try to bring out a sniper support video tomorrow. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like the content. If you like Penny, my sister's dog, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment on the video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.